Welcome to the most amazing podcast on earth. 3 out of 4 dentists recommend you listen to this podcast while you brush your teeth for 2 minutes straight. We are jumping in today on the conclusion of our very popular Back by Demand episodes of This Sucks, Now What? Joining us today, we have Jason Mendez,
Hola.
who was indeed the 7th Care Bear. And then we also have Diana Gonzalez, the Power Ranger, who just didn't make the cut. And myself, Patrick Pac-Man Perez. I am the Smurf that got lost somewhere in those mushrooms. So I have been found. And in today's episode, we are jumping in once again on This Sucks, Now What? Because as we're going to learn, it's not just about us. It's about everyone. And now, for the conclusion of This Sucks, Now What? He's trying to rescind the voting stuff because voter fraud is so crazy. Voter fraud is everywhere. So we need to require everyone who's been married and changed their last name, they need to go get updated records. Which, if you're a single working mom out there, it's like, how in the world are you going to take a day off of work, get babysitters so you can go update your paperwork just to go vote? And so, yeah, I think Rachel is ready to go burn down buildings and stuff. Not that she would do that, but I would encourage her to.
So I would have to actually fly out to New York City to update my stuff.
Oh, actually, I don't know. I think you could do it here, no?
Okay, so I would have to actually show like my birth certificate, or do I need to?
I don't know. Maybe if Rachel was on here for next week,
Yes.
we can dig into this.
Talk about that because this is
It's a big deal.
Like
Diana,
I
this is huge. Yeah.
didn't really think. Like
I
was
gotta
like,
read this because I did not hear this. So I'm gonna read this, and I'm gonna now. That's gonna be because I've been so focused on this grant thing.
The whole world
yeah.
is passing by right now. Yeah.
Let me see if I can pull up a video. I want to be like Joe Rogan here and pull up a video, and I'll put it in the link to play because there was a senator who kind of went off on everyone, and she was just like, "Are y'all kidding me? Here we are kicking women back to the 1960s because y'all think this and that, and it's so crazy." Senator on new.
It'd be great if we can get like what's her name, Crockett. I forgot her first name on here.
Oh yeah, I saw her. Yeah, she kind of went off on people too.
Yeah.
Woman senator. And I think one of the guests that I sent you, J.R. Gonzalez, he's in that world of all the politics, all the stuff going on with Hispanics. So
Oh wow.
I got to see if he's woke, or if he's a curmudgeon. Even though J.R., if you're listening, you're a curmudgeon.
Oh, so we definitely need like if we have to get like 2 sides.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I think I found
So we
it.
we could be fair because we want to be fair. Or do we want to be fair?
I think it'd be good to be fair because so their reasoning is because of a lot of undocumented people who get the right to vote, they tend to vote a certain way. So that's why they want to have everybody required to have proof. But it's kind of like throwing the baby out with the bathwater. And they're like, well, yeah, but from what this senator says, they've known about this issue that if they pass this, it's called the SAVE Act, that would prevent a lot of women from being able to vote. I just threw it in the chat. It's like a minute long if you want to play it. I think she'll touch on it. This is the right video. Pass it to you, Jason.
Oh, okay. Let's see. Click on it.
Drink my new Walmart coffee.
Used an amendment that would have stopped this bill from being implemented unless we could just certify that no eligible married woman would be denied the right to vote. That should go without saying. Republicans blocked it. Let me repeat that. Republicans voted down my amendment that just would have ensured that women who are eligible and registered could still cast their ballot. This puts up to 70 million women at risk of disenfranchisement.
Wow.
70 million. That's 1 in 4 voters in this country. And the burden will fall hardest on working mothers, caregivers, those juggling jobs and families who have barely a moment to spare. It's outrageous that in the year 2025, more than a century after the 19th Amendment was ratified, we still have to defend a woman's right to vote.
It's crazy.
But we will every single day if that's what it takes, because this is personal. It's for the mom in Gresham who can't afford to take unpaid time off work to go hunt down paperwork. It's for the woman in Hood River whose name no longer matches her birth certificate, who doesn't have the $160 for a passport. Are we really going to tell her she can't vote? Republicans failed to show up for their mothers, their daughters, their wives, and every woman in their life. But we are going to keep showing up, and we're just getting started. We're not going to stop until we build a government where working mothers and families can also thrive.
Man.
Boom. So that was Congresswoman Maxine Dexter, Democrat from Oregon, it looks like. And yeah, so sorry, Deanna, you can't vote anymore.
I cannot vote. My gosh, what is going on? There was I jokingly said this, that like on this podcast, we had too much testosterone. No, we got this in the nation now. Like what?
Yeah.
Like so much testosterone flying
And
out there.
That now fits the theme. Like, oh, you can't vote anymore, Deanna. That sucks. Now what?
Yeah.
That's yeah. I can't. Yeah. Now what? I mean,
That was
I
fun.
was reading about how they're trying to push Americans get deported to El Salvador.
What?
Oh yeah. I mean, that's in those areas where ICE is cracking down so much harder. Like they can pick anybody up, and
Yeah.
there's no due process, which puts us at risk, which is crazy.
Yeah, because they're
Again.
saying that any American that is considered violent, he's trying to push for this, that they can strip away the citizenship and deport them to El Salvador.
Says the guy who incited a riot on the Capitol.
Right? Right?
Wow.
But who's why El Salvador? What's going on with El Salvador? Why not Colombia? Why not why El Salvador? Why is that picked?
They have a prison out there that's detaining all well, it's where everyone's being shipped right now, the gang members that they call, and so in the El Salvadorian president is taking them. And so one of the things that the deciding factor, I was reading this article, was this man that was just recently deported. I forgot his name. That's terrible.
The guy from Maryland.
Yeah, from Maryland. And he was actually wasn't really supposed to be deported, and they requested that they facilitate in bringing him back.
Mm-hmm.
And what wound up happening was they said, well, facilitate. It doesn't mean that you're ordering us. The court, was telling that they have to bring him back because he was wrongfully deported.
Right.
He wasn't supposed to be deported, and he was wrongfully deported. And they don't want to bring him back. And the president of El Salvador in a press conference said, no, he's not releasing him. Like, no.
What?
Yeah. Abrego Garcia, 29 years old.
Yes. And the funny thing is, the conversation that it's a night and day when the Ukrainian president was talking, that, when you compare the lack of respect that they had for that Ukrainian president, and then versus the El Salvadorian president. But yeah, he said that he's not going to release him, and he's going to continue detaining him. And so technically, the question lies is, these people are supposed to be deported, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they're supposed to be sent and then released, right? They're not releasing these prisoners. They're incarcerating them and keeping them there.
It's like one of the most high maximum security prisons in the world.
Wow.
Yeah, they said the president of El Salvador was saying it's almost a scripted SNL type of skit where the president was saying, like, look, I can't send a terrorist back to America. Y'all wouldn't want me to send a terrorist back to America, so why do they want to bring them back? And it's just, I don't know. It's when the people quit keeping the people in power in check, we all get checked.
Exactly.
Yeah. And it's pretty much, don't get me started. Sorry.
No, go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was gonna say, unless you're a white male right now, it's
okay?
crazy times. Yeah. I mean, I identify as a white male because I'm so Americanized, but I don't think ICE would look at me any different.
Yeah, my dad, he looks so white. I swear, growing up in school and stuff, everyone said, is your dad white? I'm like, yeah. I used to think my dad was white. That's how white I thought he was. I'm not
Yeah.
playing. Like growing up, it's like, yeah, I even told people, I was like, yeah, my dad's white. That's how white, because the way he talked, the way he's educated and everything. And then every now and then there'll be a somewhat of an awkward separation with my uncles, on my mom's side. And, it was just different, and, and I bring this up because of his skin color. I'm assuming he didn't really receive any racism, because he has never ever brought this up, talked to me about it, especially if I had brought something about it or if anybody else talked about it. So there was lots of things when a simple one, like, if I was at the racetrack down the street and I'm pumping gas and, I'm at my job and I'm like happy. And then all of a sudden this guy comes out of nowhere and goes, I wish you people went back to where y'all came from. And, and it's one of those things where I'm like, wait, what did he say?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is it? It's colorism, because even in Mexican culture, it's like, oye, moreno, negro.
Yeah.
It's, the lighter skin.
Even with black folks as well. I learned this, if they're light skinned versus dark, I didn't know there was a major separation there either. I had no idea.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I'm here to offend because I think the most racist people, well, colorism exists so much in Indian culture that it's, the darker the Indian, it's like that they at times will even like brighten their skin color, which is weird. A lot of the brown skinned people try to brighten their skin color while most of the white people get spray tan. Yeah, tan. Get this. So it's like, what in the world? Everybody's trying to just be different and fit whatever that mold is. And I even saw a video that had popped up about the Miss, I think it was like, maybe it was Miss El Salvador or someone. They're like, wow, so an indigenous person finally won Miss America. But wait, and then it shows all the other contestants and like they all, even
dark.
though they're from Latin, well, they're not dark. You would figure the Latin culture, South America, would be dark, but it was mostly the Spaniard-looking, tall, slender, very
European
white.
looking. Yeah.
And so even in that,
Yep. True that.
and I wanted to share. This kind of jumps back and forth. I looked up some research because I like facts more than just like, oh well, it's just your thoughts, because in this day and age, it seems like reason and logic have gone out the window. So I did a little research with ChatGPT, thanks ChatGPT, about DEI stuff and why are critics opposing it, and then what does the research say about what are the benefits of DEI. And so I got this really cool little infographic that it made. And so research shows that DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion, studies find diverse teams are more innovative and financially successful. These DEI initiatives improve morale, trust, and employee retention.
Oh, wow.
And DEI seeks to level the playing field, not by giving people advantages, but by removing unjust advantages. And so it's taking away the fences that Black, Brown, Indigenous, LGBTQIA have had to overcome in order to compete with the, white Anglo-Saxon Protestant type people.
Yeah.
But
I'm sorry, go ahead. No, go ahead.
And I like what you were saying, Deanna, was that we want to get both sides of this. So, I asked ChatGPT, okay, so what do the critics and opponents say? And so what it kind of found was DEI is great if it's implemented correctly, but a lot of companies did not do it correctly. And so DEI may lead to reverse discrimination or highlight divisions, and poorly designed DEI programs show limited impact and even backlash. And so if it's not done correctly, and that's kind of what the opponents highlight, like, well, it makes division and it focuses too much on politics and it's not based on merit, blah, blah, blah. But that's what happens when those companies don't implement it correctly.
So go ahead, Dan.
No. So I can definitely understand both point of views. One of the things that I because I have heard from both perspectives, and I'm a listener. I love to listen to people's both perspectives and hear them out. And when historically, underrepresented groups, we have felt time and time again the discrimination. Yet people aren't aware of it, because they say, oh, this person is more qualified than you. They're more, and so, and I think among mainly Latinos, it's one of the groups that we're more quiet and more passive.
Mm-hmm.
We're not as outspoken.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
We tend to be very passive and just say, okay, my time's not there yet. It'll eventually come. And correct me if I'm wrong, if you guys see things differently, but I just felt that as Latinos, we tend to be very passive on that. Unlike other groups, other underrepresented groups, they tend to be a lot more vocal. And they tend to when there is an issue that arises, they really stick together and their voices are heard.
Mm-hmm.
And they really make sure that it's heard. So where my point is going with this is a lot of the underrepresented groups, we feel it, we've lived it, we've seen it through our parents, we've lived it ourselves, we've seen it through our grandparents, what they lived through. And so now that when we're talking about the flip side, for the very first time, we're having these white males being overlooked,
Hmm.
and they're feeling and getting a slight, and they're getting a taste of what we've had to deal with years and centuries of generations being passed over.
Mm-hmm.
And then so they're like, oh, this is reverse discrimination. No, because you're so used to getting what you want.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the other side of the perspective, I mean, now, however, what I don't agree with is when you have them, a white male or white female expressing this and they're automatically called racist.
Hmm.
That I don't agree with. I think that unfortunately, it's hard for them to understand. It's hard for any group, whether you're white, black, or whatever, to understand what another group experiences, another race experiences, another gender, sexual orientation, unless you walk in their shoes. It's very difficult. And so when you start feeling that for the very first time, it's like, oh, this is what it feels like. And they don't like it. But it's something that, and it's one of those things. Like I remember one time I was sitting in a car with my dad, and my brother went in. My brother at the time was like 16, 17 years old. He walks into the grocery store, and literally the grocery, because it was open windows, you could see how they were watching him and walking kind of thinking that he was going to, I guess, steal or do something.
Mm-hmm.
Because this was this young little Latino boy going in there with his his pants sagging, his jeans sagging, and he was dressed like, what people don't deem appropriate. And it was really, when I saw that, how they were watching him, observing him, and it's quite interesting. And I'm one of those that I really like to observe, and I see the differences of how people are treated, the body language, how people get tense when certain individuals come into the room, how their body language changes. And it could be something that people don't realize is subconscious, and it's years of, when you look at media bombarding a whole bunch of things. And so when they talk about this, getting back to that DEI, that companies are not doing it the right way. The other flip side is maybe they're not liking the way the companies are doing it because they're now feeling.
Yeah. The power levels are changing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so at that point, because we all of us, even myself included, like, I'm more qualified for that role. I should have been the one selected. I have more knowledge. And so when you're so used to not being passed over, when you get passed over, that's not a good feeling.
Mhm. Yeah.
And then you're like, well, that's reverse discrimination.
Mm.
You know?
That's the first thing that pops up. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, oh, I'm being discriminated because they're giving them to make that diversity, or they're pulling, they need a Latino, they need an African American person there. So I think in many times, people feel that it is reverse discrimination, and it really isn't. And then there are some cases that it is. It really genuinely is.
Oh, yeah.
And so,
it's a systemic system. It was a system that was placed there, just like barbed wire fence.
Mm-hmm.
I had gone to a City of Austin demographer presentation done at City Hall during this whole Airbnb battle back in the days. And the city demographer revealed, he's like, and it's so interesting to see that I-35, the major freeway here, was pretty much the border between white on the west side and then black and brown on the east side. And because the city couldn't specifically say like, well, we want that separation, what they could do is build all the black and brown schools on one side of the freeway.
Oh, man.
So that people would move over there, they would stay there and go to those schools. And that has happened so much now that, the biggest, not even a story anymore, but like we're all the black people, all the black people in Austin. There used to be entire neighborhoods that are now gone and turned into McMansions. It's young millennial kids living there, and all the black people are displaced. They moved to Manor, just on the outskirts, because the property taxes go up, they get priced out.
Yeah.
And I'll even say it's insanity because we own a few rental properties, but those property taxes, like, it eats away. And it's like, wow, this is an investment property and it's barely staying afloat now because everything goes up so high.
Yeah.
And that these systems have been put there, it's a power thing. And in Austin is a little more aggressive, I'll say, and what they call dismantling whiteness. That Austin and some of the programs there see that diversity, equity, inclusion are not good because all it's doing is placing people into a white system instead of dismantling the whiteness that has caused these issues over time. The fact that black people had a march and protest to get rights. Women had a march and protest to get rights. LGBTQIA had a march and protest to get rights.
Mm-hmm.
The Chicana movement, the, Si Se Puede, the farm strike. It's like everybody fought. Everybody had to fight for this because there's systems in place to drink from the same water fountains and stuff. And that's what it kind of feels like going back now. It's like, what the heck is happening? Like, why are they repealing all this stuff?
Yeah.
Makes you wonder. Makes you wonder. I mean,
it would be good to get the other voices. So yeah, sorry.
No, I definitely think it would be great to get the different perspectives because I think that I think everyone has some truth behind what they have to say. I remember I was sitting with in this former company that I worked for, won't name the company. I was sitting with she was a vice president, and we were sitting down as a group of us women that were sitting there, and we were coming from a leadership development thing, and we were having drinks. We're all sitting there, and she mentioned, I think she had a little bit too much, and she kind of got really comfortable, and so there were a few, not as many women of color in that table. There were just a few of us, and the rest were predominantly white. And she got really comfortable, and we were talking about, she's really, 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 she's got 2 boys, and it's a scary time for being white males in this country. And she is, as a mother raising 2 white male boys, she's terrified of what they have to face. And she hit some valid points, You know, and we kind of related as raising boys. It's very difficult because, you know, they have to be very careful because they can be, you know, accused of sexual assault, all these things. And so raising kids now, you have to be very careful, especially males of, you know, and that was one of the things that we were touching on. And so it started leading where she says, no, but my sons are not going to have the same opportunities. And we were kind of like, what do you mean by the same opportunities? Because of this, this reverse discrimination.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, oh, okay.
Wow. It's crazy.
And so I heard her out. She voiced her concerns, and I'm like, you know, I'm sorry that you feel that way. But as a mother that raised 2 Latino boys, and the other woman, there was another, you know, African American woman said, my fear is that my sons will come back alive. They get pulled over.
Yeah.
You know, because of his skin color, because he's not white enough. Or we carry different fears.
I mean,
you're
even
worried about the opportunities. We're worried about if our children are going to make it alive back.
Or get deported.
Or, you know. And so it is a different level of fears. And I could understand that. And yes, you have this fears. And I remember looking back and reflecting on how I raised my boys. I was a very strict mom, and they kind of reminded me of that. I kind of raised them in the way where I said, you have to work 30 times harder. You have to prove, it is like, you have to prove yourself when you get that seat in the table. Every day, every second, you're going to have to prove. So you have to be smarter, brighter. And so when you get to meet my son, you'll see. And I pushed them so hard. I didn't expose my boys to television. My children, their form of entertainment was reading, was going to the library. And I was a single mom that couldn't afford these things. So I worked for a company at the time where they would give like tickets to the employees, like to like theater events and things like that. And they would give them like 2 tickets. And I would have coworkers give me 1 ticket so I could take my, you know, the 3 of us can attend. And this is how we were able to go to these theater events, these operas, because of the company. And our play, our good time, our extracurricular activities going to the library. And they didn't have television. My children were exposed to television. All they did was read. And their form of punishment was I would take away their books and they would cry. That was their punishment.
Wow.
Oh.
Kudos. Wow.
Yeah. And so, and I knew at the time, because at that time, and as I talked in the previous podcast, was I had a late education because I was a very young mom. I was very, you know, I had my oldest as a teenager. And so I wasn't able to go to college early on. So I emphasized education so hard on them. I think I overdid it, you know, I really did. But back to the point was, as a mother, and I would love when we get Rachel on to discuss these things, and even women that have gone through that journey, women of color, there is an extra emphasis because they question a man of color or any person of color. Did you really earn that education, that degree? Are you really that smart? Are you, you know, or are you just a diversity choice, a diversity pick? And you have to really prove yourself even harder.
But that's the crazy thing, because then you look at the opposite of these rich white kids who get these legacy, their parents are legacy donors to these universities, so they get buy-ins, you know, because their parents give and give. And it's like, was that based on merit, or you just have rich parents who get you in there? And yeah, I didn't mean to cut you off, but yeah, I mean, it's what it is. It's like now everybody's getting in the mud and they're seeing what it feels like.
Yeah.
And this is, as you were saying earlier, a lot of times the Hispanic or the black folk, we kind of like, well, may the Lord's will be done. With God, we can. And we grasp into the faith. But when that same thing happens to, the richer people in power, it's like, no, we're going to fight this. We're going to, this isn't how it's supposed to be. And another thing that came to mind was like Selena's dad, like you got to be more American than the Americans, more Mexican than the Mexicans. You're right there in the middle.
Yeah.
So, oh gosh, yeah. And I think Rachel can talk to this so much. I mean, she's got some things to share on this because she's such a huge advocate. And I mean, one reason that I was so attracted to her when we first met was I was like, okay, she's white, but all of her friends, like her BFFs, are black. So that's showing that, okay, she's not just another run of the mill, type of person. I mean, she sees the struggles, she acknowledges the struggles, and she wants to be, she wants to just be there for people.
Mm-hmm. I love that. That's so awesome. Yeah.
Then here I come. I'm like, oh, I don't know. It's all like a lot of my mentors with my business were older white men. And so I know that there's different ways to look at this, but it does get really complicated because it's like, yeah, I mean, the men who helped me in my life have been predominantly white. I had a youth pastor who was black who really helped me along. But at the same point, they just don't understand the struggles. I don't understand the struggles of black, black people, what they go through.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really understand the struggles of a Mexican who doesn't speak English.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm very, pocho, coconut, whitewashed, whatever you want to call it. But I also know that there's struggles for some of the younger generations, like you were saying, that they're concerned about their kids. There was an instance where one of my neighbors, love him to death, but one of my neighbors, he was the only white kid in an all-black school.
Oh, wow.
And horribly attacked, like they thought he was going to have like a brain like damage because he got beat so hard. And this is middle school. He was beat so hard. And the craziest thing was all the other kids are just filming on their phones. It went viral on TikTok. It went viral. And so, of course, the mother tried to go after the school, tried to go after the kid. Hey, y'all, we need to take this down. This kid needs to be tried in a court. I mean, this was an attack. My son could die from this type of injury.
Right.
And the accountability, it wasn't there. It's like, oh, it's just kids being kids. He's sorry. It's like, what the heck? And I forced myself to watch the video because I was like, how serious? And it's like, oh my gosh, pulling his hoodie down and just repeatedly beating his head while the whole school just watches. And this is the most innocent, loving kid. I mean,
yeah,
it's a struggle. It's a struggle that a lot of people go through to be different, whether you are black, brown, white. I mean, because this really intrigued me a lot looking at early America. It wasn't like everybody got along. The English hated the Irish. The Irish and the Scottish, or like it was a bunch of factions. They didn't like each other, but ultimately they kind of just assimilated into America. And here's the craziest thing: as you think about it, like what really is American? We think, oh yeah, you're grilling. Okay, so you're making hamburgers. That's German. You're drinking beer. That's German. It's these cultures that have so integrated that they became American, quote unquote. Yeah. But then when the Chinese and the Mexicans and the Jews and all of this, we started coming. It's like, well, you're really not American. Sorry, you have to fit a mold.
Yeah.
I'm glad that you mentioned that, Patrick, in regards to because yes, discrimination happens in all form, and I think that it's sad that that we're letting out our anger on that one person that is different, or that individual that is not part of the group, instead of embracing them. and showing them love and kindness, what we all strive for, because we all want the same thing. We're all human beings. It doesn't matter at the end of the day who we marry or our sexual orientation, our color of our skin, what language we speak, or what religion, what faith we have. At the end of the day, we're all human and we all want pretty much the same things. We want to survive. We want to live. We want to make our money. We want to be with our loved ones. And live in a society that is accepting, but for some reason it's that rage that that's carried inside, and what's going to stop it? I have no idea.
It's almost like we should lead some type of embrace the differences. Some kind of program, because like I hear this 24/7. Like, how can we make a change? I would be part of the ERGs, several of them, especially like the Black community. Here comes, Martin Luther King month and everything. And I get to see his daughter, up there talking to everyone. And the preachers are there as the speakers, and they're talking to everybody. And the first thing they say is, I love that we're all here together, but I love to see different color faces other than our own.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I really think, where does it start? How did a young one understand that this person is different? Because somebody taught them, right? Their parents taught them. It begins there, right?
It's learned. Exactly. It's all learned.
I had no idea. I was coming from Oak Cliff, and it was all me, all my shades of brown, and just a few white folks, white kids, and but I didn't know any difference until I came to Cedar Hill, and I'm like, wait, why is it all pasty here? Why is it all white? And then I only saw a few Black folks, and I felt that was more related to the minorities for some reason, but even them, they were like, I could tell that they didn't accept me either. No one accepted me when I came here in my 7th and 8th grade year. So that's when I started learning about racism and discrimination, and I still didn't even know clearly what that meant, other than there is a major separation here. I just thought everyone didn't like me because I did something wrong or I looked ugly. And then I just think we should make some type of lead or make some type of image of something where it says, something about embracing, differences. Again, for me, it's always about my baby sister teaching me just about 3-4 years ago. She says, you know what your issue is this whole time, big brother? I'm like, what? It's imposter syndrome. And I was like, imposter syndrome, what the hell is that? I'm 50. She's at the time, she was like 23, 24, and she graduated with her master's in TV and film, and she works out there at the Austin, what is it, Film Society out there? And she says this, and she explains it to me, and it's always been me trying to be that person who's been putting the systems in. I'm trying to be like this person to fit in. And once she broke that down to me, that's when slowly but quickly, I'm like, wait a minute. God dang it. I'm freaking, 47 years old, and I still can't be me? That's stupid. And that's when that's where I was able to embrace my music. That's when I was able to embrace myself and who I am. And, if I have an accent or whatever, I'm like, even though I don't speak Spanish, I still been around all of my friends and cousins that spoke Spanish and everything. So people would actually make fun of my accent, and I didn't even know I had an accent. And I was like, and I would almost be offended, but now I'm embracing that. And then here lately, and please correct me if I'm wrong, I started understanding as growing up. I remember, when you're filling in the ovals, what am I, by the way? Am I don't see black and white. That's the only thing that you fill out in school. Because the system needs to know what kids are in these schools right now. Things are changing, right? 70s, 80s, and 90s. And so I'm like, well, I can't click. Well, I guess I'll click white. And then here comes Hispanic, kind of, and I'm like Hispanic. And so growing up, I would say, no, I'm Hispanic. And I thought it is a form of culture, but at the time, I thought it was like a whole different other breed, like another,
Are you from Hispania?
yeah, right. And so then I understood, like, wait a minute, that's the government trying to figure out, were you born here or not? Let's classify you. Even though you're Mexican, you were born here. Let's classify you as Hispanic. Am I right or wrong? Like,
no, that's exactly it's. I saw another video. They talk about this. Like Hispanic encompasses everyone, but mostly it's like you have Spaniard blood in you. Versus, I think what Chicanos are trying to do is like, no, we're Chicano. We're indigenous. Like we don't have that Spanish blood in us. We're indigenous to these lands. And so it's I don't know. Like I'm like you. When I would see those little bubbles, I used to just click every single one, just put them all in there. And then after Ancestry.com told me like, oh, I got 1% African American. Boom, I am everything.
And yeah, and I filled that out. I gave them my blood and everything, and I had some Spaniard in me, some Indian, some African American, and a lot more or Mexican. But my point here is, straight up, bracing that I'm Mexican. That's basically what it comes down to. This Hispanic is for those folks that didn't understand, how did I get here? And, that you're born. That's what Hispanic is all about. And you don't know how many times I grew up where Mexican was like, yeah, no, you're Mexican. Come on, you're Mexican. I'm like, no, I'm Hispanic. Proud to say I'm Hispanic, thinking, not knowing, being educated by nobody, not no one. I am Mexican. I mean, growing up in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, there's no YouTube, there's no internet. There's like, where do you get this from? And my dad works nights. There's my grandparents. They're coming from a Pentecostal. It's all church. There's nothing else.
Yep.
That's it. That's mine. I felt like I was so sheltered, and Dad was so trying to protect me from the gangs. And that's the only reason why I came to Cedar Hills, to get away from the gangs. Because as soon as the gangs came into Oak Cliff, in the 80s and everything, my dad's like, nope, you're coming with me.
Oh, that's a good move. Wow. Yeah.
Just like that. So there goes all my friends. There's all my cousins. I have like 6, 7, 8 aunts all over there, and all my cousins are over there. But if you can imagine losing touch with all that and then going back, I'm like, ooh, everything's foreign again. Everything's different, So
was it when you moved? Was that more diversity where you moved to, or was less?
Cedar Hill, it was all country, man. I've never seen horses and cows. Like I said, it was more pasty over here, man. It was just like, and so when people say, "Man, where are you from?" Because now I work in security, and I work with more minority folks, and it's like, man, where you from? I said, man, and I have sometimes every now and then, I'm from Oak Cliff, man. Like that, right? Versus I'm from Oak Cliff, and so I'll change it up just to see what they the response is like. You from Oak Cliff? And I was like, yeah. It was because I went to Cedar Hill. Where's Cedar Hill at? It's like. But yeah, it's just the culture differences and everything. And listen to y'all too. It's like, man, the educational system, just being exposed, not being exposed, and just wow, just learning so much from y'all too. So,
oh yeah. Now I want to throw this out to the listeners too. What has your journey been like for the listeners out there? Were you the outcast, or were you part of the majority? Were you the one that was not accepted by either of your ethnicities? What is culture? What is your culture like? And it goes so far. I mean, Texas Mexicans apparently are different than California Mexicans. We're all different than Puro Mexicanos down in Durango Mexicans. I mean, that's why I like the beauty of hip hop. I'm like, hip hop is just it blends everything. It's Black and Brown began it, but it was infused with the rhythms of a lot of rock and roll and funk music from white folks, and then Asia came along in the 90s, 2000s, and like totally decimated the scene and breaking. So it's like this whole conglomerate, and it's like everybody's culture.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So I know I broke off from Diane about, how do we make this change? I just feel like, I mean, who's going to make the start? Who's going to start that off regarding where does this change start?
Our Lord and Savior Trump. Just yeah. We do need to get some other perspectives on here, so we're not just one.
We do. We need to, we do. We need to get some, because I think we're all kind of aligned, thinking the same way.
We're in the echo chamber.
We're in our echo chamber, exactly, and we're just But I do think the change is going to happen. This is my own personal belief, and where it's going to happen is we definitely need certain generations to die out, and they're completely gone. That's where the shift is going to happen. Mm-hmm. And when they die off, that generation, then I think that we're going to see some type of change. However, I don't know if you guys have noticed, the newer generations are coming out very conservative too.
And I had seen some stuff, and I think Rachel has kind of mentioned this too, but I think there's different reasons that they go conservative. It's not so much what we would think of conservative, but it's more like, well, our chances of owning a home now don't exist. We don't get these good paying pensionary type jobs, if that's even a word, pensionary. And so it's like different reasons. And I think exactly what you're kind of saying, it's sad, but I mean, even in the Bible, for those of you that go to the Bible, it's like the whole reason Moses was lost in the desert for 40 years was that God was pretty much trying to let that generation die off before they got to that promised land. And sadly, it takes that, it takes that generational cleansing given in some of the smaller towns or areas where they pass it on to the kids, and the kids mimic that, and it goes and grows until they can meet a Jason or until they can meet a Deanna who can give them that other perspective and show them. And I think even Rachel would talk about this, it's because of her roles at these companies and moving to San Antonio from Amarillo, cultural shift. But it was that kind of stuff that opened her eyes. It opened her to the perspectives of others. Yeah. And that's another big thing is here in America, we are so isolated. We're like one of the few countries where our people don't travel out, to the rest of the world versus you live in Europe. You got, French and English and Spanish and you're multilingual, and that does something to you. It shows you the other, and we all realize we are the other. And here in America, it's like, no, we're God's blessed country. Manifest destiny, and this is the way it is. Amen, brother.
Patrick, to your point, going out, traveling, I know there was that change just recently, maybe 4 or 5 years ago for me regarding my baby sister, slowly trying to figure me out. But really, it all started a change for me that I was fighting. And then slowly, like understanding more and more. And then it was like when I met my wife from Chicago.
Chi-town.
That was it. Once, I was like, I keep forgetting, like, she's not from here. And that made a world of a difference. But her mom is, I think 50% Italian. I could be so wrong, but I just know it's Beniocchi, Beniani. I forget, but can't think right now because I'm gonna lose thought here again. But when I meet her, I could tell she was just not from here, but because she's Mexican, I thought she was from here. Like I never separated it until we start working on a relationship and the way things and then her outlook on things, and I was like, okay, wait a minute. And so she is the one that got me to look outside of freaking Texas, outside of Dallas and Fort Worth, because it's a whole different perspective here versus outside of Texas.
That's exactly. So even in the same state, Dallas is so much a different culture than Austin, You know,
Mm.
Austin people don't like Dallas because they're like, it's all corporate strip malls and Mercedes.
Yeah.
And San Antonio, it's
Hey,
like,
don't hate on the Mercedes.
yeah, I know. It's just,
It's okay. Don't hate on it.
so for those of you who don't know, Jace and Deanna are up in Dallas. I'm over here outside of Austin. And it's it's so different. El Paso is a whole different world
Paso.
compared to
El
the rest
Paso.
of Texas. Chucotown Highway, it's a whole different land. And then you go down to the valley, you know, it's different. And something that you brought up that I think that a lot of people who are in this kind of like dual life phase, like you're American, but you're Mexican, you're American, but you're Black, you're American, but you're Asian. And one of my friends talked about this was in the dating scene, because she was pura mexicana, you know, Mexican girl,
Mm.
but she didn't want to date Mexican men because they tended to be more patriarchal. And she was a PhD candidate, you know, pursuing school. So she's like, a lot of these guys are just looking for someone that's going to be their mom, you know, cook, clean, make a baby.
Mm.
And she was, no, I want social justice. I'm getting my degree. And so it's like, well, in that case, if you want someone that's going to be at that level, your market share kind of just narrows down. And yeah, you know, unless you're going to move to the valley or move to El Paso where there's more more Mexicans with well, I won't say there's more Mexicans with degrees, but the college institutions over there, you know, have a lot more Mexicans.
Increased. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then they get the degree and they move to Austin and Dallas because that's where the jobs are.
Mm.
So
I
yeah,
totally cannot relate to what you're saying here. Everything that you guys are talking about, I cannot relate. I was born in New York City.
oh yeah, tell more.
Let me tell you, it was the melting pot and you loved everybody. It literally,
Yeah.
I mean, even though you had your divisions, like when you were like your cliques,
Mhm.
but at the end, you were really exposed to different cultures,
Yep.
different. I mean, that experience of growing up in New York City, I love that. I think that's why I'm so accepting, because it wasn't something that was
Yeah.
being exposed to everything.
Yeah.
In New
No.
York.
And I loved it. And you know, you and different kinds of food, restaurants. It was like the melting pot of all
All the
cultures.
cultures.
And
Yeah.
so and when I moved to Florida, that was a shocker. I was like, whoa, like what is this?
That's it right there.
Were you more in the like the Latino Florida or the white people Florida? White people Florida.
Can't hear you, Diane. Can you say that louder,
Say
please?
it louder.
White people, Florida.
You racist. How dare you?
Okay, listen. Let me explain. And remember, I selected the map. I went there,
yeah.
you know, did the thing and landed in
Educated.
Yeehaw Junction. Now that's really like white. But anyway, I actually selected like more towards Orlando, and there was an area, Winter Springs. It was called Winter Springs. This is what I wind up doing. I landed. I had a weekend to find a place to live. And so I went to the Winter Springs area, and go figure, it was just one of those things, and found the place that I was going to live at and selected. And then I flew back to New York, and then started packing and everything and moved. And that was, but it just happened to be Winter Springs. And the reason I selected Winter Springs was because a childhood friend of mine, Julie, that I grew up with in New York City, recommended that area. She says, oh, you should look into Winter Springs if you're going to move somewhere, move in Winter Springs and all that. And so I actually, because of the recommendation, wind up moving to Winter Springs. And so, but it was a white area, and it was a little townhouse in a country club area. And I know it was, in comparison to New York City, it was relatively very cheap, but I was trying to give the best opportunity for my boys. You know, leaving the ex. And also I didn't want my boys to grow up in New York City in public school. It was tough, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want the statistics on young men and boys or people, you know, I was like, I need that move. So, but yes, so I moved to the white area. So yes, I'm
And we'll get to hear from your son in one of these
Oh.
episodes.
I know. Next week, actually, next week, he said he'll do the recording. He said he's free.
very cool.
Okay, cool.
So you can hear his perspective, and he's going to say a lot of things. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't want to hear it.
Every parent's dream or nightmare. Like,
It's a nightmare. They're gonna,
What do we do?
Not,
what do we do?
Very cool.
I hope he's kind, but yeah.
Yeah.
But no,
real,
yes.
Diana. Let him be real.
Yeah, let him be real.
Let
But that's
him
a good
express.
perspective in New York.
Let him
No, he's
express.
gonna be real. They don't hold back.
Yeah, I believe
I'll
it.
tell you one thing. My boys don't hold back, and I'm a trooper. I take it. I admit that I wasn't a perfect mom, and so I made a lot of mistakes. But
Yeah.
but
You got
like
two
going
great
back
kids.
to I'm sorry.
You have two great kids. So there you go.
Yeah, they're great kids. But it was funny when you were talking about the dating scene, about your friend and all that. At the time, because I guess growing up in New York City, I remember I was United Nation. I dated all kinds of men. I did. And I got to really see, my husband is actually Moroccan. He's from Morocco. He's Arabic, and I'm glad that I actually had that open-mindedness, because if I was really narrow-minded, I would have missed on a really wonderful opportunity to share my life with someone fantastic.
Mhm.
Facts. To that real quick, Diana, like, I don't know how many times on the guys, on the men. I share this with women as well. When they're sad and they broke up with their love, who they thought they were their one. I was like, you do know, like, if you're looking for someone, if you're trying to look for someone, you don't have to look down the street. You don't have to look at your local church. There could be somebody waiting for you on the other side of the world. Love is everywhere. Like, just, you're looking at a pond, you're looking at the puddle, you're looking at the lake when there's a whole ocean out there, and everyone can be educated on about everything about the country. There's so much to learn other than right in front of you kind of thing, and that's fine. That's great. But we could talk about love and relationships on another one, but man.
So that's it. Oh, you know what? I just had this idea.
Mm.
Can we all share how we met our loved ones?
Ooh.
Sure.
I know I have a very interesting one, and I know you guys do too. So,
Oh yeah. That'll be the Valentine's special.
I think so. The Valentine's Day special. How we
Even though
met
that's
our
like a
loved
year away, so maybe sooner it'll be the March. Yeah.
I don't know if I should share the rated G or the rated R version, but anyway.
The rated R will be available on Patreon. Or the Vault. They can unlock it on the Vault.
You'll see my wife trying to. How do I subscribe? No, you can't subscribe to this one. No.
Oh, but you know what? Thinking about everything that we're talking about, I mean, this sucks. Now what? I mean, like, literally.
Yeah.
It's the global. It's the global now. This sucks. Now what? This is like the global edition, because
It's a global.
everything that's happened in America is trickled down, and it's screwing everybody up. And luckily, the new polls are showing that about 51% of Americans are thinking that the economy is getting worse. So maybe they'll do something about it. But we need to get out of this echo chamber. So we need some MAGA loving people to come join us as a guest on here.
Yeah.
I got a few. Yeah. And what's funny is it's mostly like my Mexican friends who voted, and it wasn't so much that they were pro-Trump, but it was more like, oh, well, Robert F. Kennedy is going to do great things for the health of Americans and all this. And so they all had their other different reasons, but I don't know. It's interesting.
I'm glad we don't do video podcasts.
We should.
Yeah.
Well, I got to do my makeup.
You want to hear something funny? I went to visit my family in Florida, and my aunt comes quietly to me. She says to me, hey, who did you vote for?
Oh my goodness.
And then I was like, she goes, to me very quietly, I voted for the woman, but don't let anyone know. Did you vote for the lady? And I looked at her.
That's funny.
And I was like, of course you voted for the lady.
Yeah.
She was like, she goes, yeah, but you can't let anyone else know about this. And I was like, it shocked me like she was keeping it. And I'm like, so who in the family voted for the other one?
Mm,
And so she's telling me, and I'm like, no,
that's funny.
really? And it was like talking about one major issue, things that they really believed on that kind of steered them, that they felt that the Democratic Party is too woke or too, and they're a little bit, and it was just that one issue. And I had told her, I said, man, we're going to see what's going to happen. This was during that time when I said, we're going to see what's going to happen. They're going to regret that vote.
Yeah.
And even though some people that are MAGA don't regret that vote, they're just really strongly believe that America is great. We're going to get there. And I'm like, okay. So I definitely would love to hear others and kind of hear their perspective and just kind of hear and respectfully disagree and respect their point of view. And hopefully maybe the three of us can convert that one person. No, I'm kidding. No.
If you're a listener and you want to be on the podcast, email us and we'll let Deanna kind of do a background check on you. Cause I've had to report some people on my Facebook page, like to the FBI and local authorities. I mean, because they just get extreme and it gets scary.
Yeah.
So yeah. So we'll do a background check or something on you wonderful people.
They're gonna hate it. No, I respect people that are MAGA. I do.
Yeah. I mean, a bunch of my friends voted for him, and they have their reasons. Like, cool. If you have a reason, it's even a lot of pastors here, because we're in a small town outside of Austin, and a lot of the pastors, we're a one issue church, and you know how we're going to vote. And that my wife and I are just gonna like hiding behind our chairs. But the good thing is we live in a country where we can vote. So far, dang, I just thought about that. So sorry, Dana, you can't vote anymore. So we used to live in a country where everybody could vote and had a voice, but that's slowly getting dismantled as well. So as we say, ni modo. We'll see. That's life now.
Yeah, no. Man, you guys are gonna have to I'm not gonna be able to vote. This is sad.
I'll find a loophole. If you pay me, I'll cast my vote for you. Yeah. And actually, I know your son will be on next week. And then I think after that, once we get Rachel scheduled, she wants to come on here and lay waste to the lands and share knowledge and stuff as well. Yes. And get all that. We have a small clip. Can we play that clip?
Yes.
And it's a teaser because we needed more estrogen on here. Mm-hmm. And we're going to answer the call because we need more women representation. Women, stand up, burn your bras, fight the powers that be, and get your vote back. And Rachel will be at the front of that line, burning lots of clothes.
I want to hear this. Come on, play it. I'm so excited. Come on.
Play it. I think I had it queued up at the timestamp, like something. It's all you, Jace.
Oh, it's on me now? Okay, hold on.
Yeah, it's you.
I look at the chats. I'll go back to the chat, right? Why can't my chat box come up?
Here, I'll post it again. Stand by. So this is from a international franchisee summit that Rachel spoke at, talking about how do you connect with others who are younger than you? Because a lot of the franchisees owners were hiring millennials, and they're like, "What do we do? How do we connect?" All right, I put it in the chat. It should be at the top of the chat.
Can you hear it?
The way we treat a person, the things we speak to them, and what we expect of them actually over time becomes a part of who they are. In that way. So culture is extremely important, and culture is around what are we creating as a sense of environment in our places of work and with our associates and employees. And I have just two things here that I learned from a boss. I remember this boss that really taught a lot of us that were in leadership the power of your word choices. Don't start off answering with the word no. Like even if you can't provide something, there's something to the psychology of it. When you say no, I can't provide that, it comes off more negatively than if we say yes and. So when someone's approaching you with a concern and you take a yes and here's some additional context around that, or here's some more reasons or why it's the way that it is, there's a surprising little shift that happens. Care is what influences all these other cornerstones of the workplace. So yes, structure is extremely important. And yes, action is important, and caring for our clients is important, and making sure that people are taken care of. But all of that comes from a heart of care first. And so I think when it comes to young people, authenticity is extremely important. And when they sense that from you as a leader and you enter their world and you show that care, you'll be surprised how much it neutralizes some of those frustrations they have, right? Just like, what if we just took that extra little step and we expect greatness out of them? Over time, that becomes a part of who they are, because people do rise to the occasion of what we set out for them.
Baller status. Baller
Love
status.
that.
That's
what
my
I'm
woman.
talking about. Yes.
That's my woman, y'all. My property.
Patrick, how did you land her? I mean, come on. No, I'm kidding.
That's what all my friends pay. That's what all my
She is
friends pay.
amazing.
She's a bad, I can't cuss on here, so she's a bad beep. And yeah, no, it's and the crazy thing is a lot of my friends were just like, wow, my gosh. But here I had my own internal struggles because of all of my own hangups. I was always so adamant about, no, I'm gonna marry a Mexican woman. I'm gonna be with a Mexican woman. It's this whole cultural thing that I thought I needed. But then I met her and I was like, she's so amazing. She's so amazing. Oh my gosh, but she's white. What do I do? Oh my gosh. And so, yeah. And it's a struggle because there was a lot of things in there from all these other breakups that left me scarred and like this ideal image of who you're going to be with, who turned out to be like the female version of myself. So I'm like, that person doesn't even exist, fool. So she can speak a thing or two because, yeah, been married 7 years.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah. She still puts up with a lot of my BS. So thank you both. But we'll end on that happy note because Jason needs to go to the shower. Get in the shower. I gotta go follow up with my KXAN news people.
That was awesome.
This is a good way to, I guess, finish out our This Sucks. So everybody in the whole world now, we're in this together. So this sucks. Now what? We'll see
it's just not a us thing, a me thing. It's a global thing.
It's a global thing.
Yeah. So with that, we're going to be wrapping up that series. I'm going to miss it actually, because I think that we're still sitting in that This Sucks and Now What? But I think our next series, we're going to come up with some catchy name titles. I don't know, like maybe Voices of Change, we can highlight the guests that are impacting the communities, or maybe In the Spotlight.
I like perspectives in the spotlight to get their perspective on things. Or maybe even give them we'll do a little 1 minute, this sucks, now what? What sucks for you right now? Bam! And we'll kind of bring it back.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Love it. Love it.
So we'll stay tuned, audience, on seeing what our next series is going to be called. And that's really, really soon because it's next week. So it's really next week. So we'll have that up and ready for you. And just kind of subscribe, sign up, follow us.
Email us.
Email us. We need emails,
Life and in between podcast at gmail.com. We want to hear your struggles. We want to hear your drama and all of the things in between.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Jason's got to go shower, y'all.
Okay. I need to go shower. I gotta go shower.
Mira, you stink, bro. Go shower. All right. You're listening to Life and in Between with Jace, Diana, Patrick. And I need more coffee.
Bye, everybody.
Sign off.
Bye.
All right. Peace out.
Peace.
Work on the grant. All right.